Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
You join us on SimSpeed TV for a new season of Ozicar Tin Top Cup Season 10. And this season, it's about the GT4s. It all begins here at MotorLand Aragón with a 50-minute or 28-lap race ahead of us. To bring you this live coverage, David Haynes here with Brady Baldwin, Daniel Yeaman in the production. Well, Brady, this is a pretty new track to iRacing, and we're looking forward to see how it plays out. It looks beautiful.
Yeah, sure does, David. Thanks for the introduction. I remember doing a broadcast here last year in the AIG Porsche Cup, and it was very good racing around this 14-turn, 4.92 kilometre circuit in the middle of Spain. Really liked the layout of this track. Wish we race here more often.
Between Valencia, Barcelona and Zaragoza. And it sort of looks a little bit like the surface of Tatooine potentially here, relatively dry, but we are using one of the layouts of this racetrack, which is called Speed. And what it means is that there at turn 12, there's no chicane bus stop complex. It is flat out from turn 10 all the way around to a super fast sweeping final sequence of corners as well. So you've got lots of changes of direction, braking zones, medium speed corners through the opening part of the lap, and very high average speeds through the back half of the lap, and it gives us a total of 4.9 kilometers. That looks very anti-clockwise to me, if I know how clocks work, though.
Yeah, it is a little bit, so I'll have to hit up producer Jay Kennedy to fix that up for our next broadcast. But yeah, very cool track, like I said. A few passing opportunities throughout the track, especially at turn 1 into turn 5 as well. It is very tight at some points of the track, so we'll have to see how it plays out. Obviously, we just spoke about GT4s in this series, so the Aston Martin, 2 BMWs, Mercedes-AMG, McLaren and Porsche, and drivers can switch up their cars all the way throughout the season, which I think is really cool because some cars will be better at some different tracks. Format tonight is obviously one lap in qualifying, so you've got to get it right straight up. 28 lap race or 50 minutes. This is a heads up race, one compulsory pit stop. You got to do all 4 tyres, and these cars aren't too great on the cold tyre, so a bit of strategy play out throughout this one, David.
So this is the schedule for Season 10 of Ozicar Tin Top Cup, beginning at Aragón here, outer or speed, depending on how you call it, and then Jerez, Navarra, Barcelona, Catalunya, Circuit de Lebanon, and Motorsport Arena Osserschleben. So heading off a really Spanish start of the season before we go to France and Germany. We'll have all of these here on SimSpeed TV. We'll see which GT4s are most popular, which drivers opt to make the change, and which models we see the most of. And if the pit stop times are indeed equal, it's all McLarens on the front row here with Adrian Duke and Brodie Shepherd. Next row, Sam Chapman in the Porsche Cayman. Mercedes AMG is Dan Stevens. And Jamie Stovall and Tony Baker, the first Aston Martin, is going to begin from 6th. I think Brent Wassel and Michael Cullen on the next row gain plenty of McLarens to show here. Dan Bartusch and Trevor Hearn, 9th and 10th after that one lap qualifying. Ira Felberg 11th, Tim Harris 12th, Nathan Verney and Warren Henry apparently didn't set a time in that one lap qualifying, and there's a few of them in that boat. Gavin Barber, Craig Tilson, Littlefinger Racing teammates 15th and 16th there. Elliot D, John Snell, Milton Borton and Ben Wheeler without qualifying times. Are there some track limits that are a bit spicier around here than I know, Brady?
The few laps that I've done here, they're very brutal at some parts of the track. So, especially with one lap qualifying, you got to get it right, like we said. So, see if you guys took too far on the limit and got that off track, and especially when you only have one lap, very, very difficult. And a lot of McLarens on this grid. So, are we seeing a trend so far in this series where the McLaren is the popular car? And we've got a few drivers on the Zoom call tonight. Dan Stevens up on the top left. I believe that is Jamie Stovald in the top right. And then Gavin Barber in the bottom screen. So, two Middle Finger Racing teammates. And then Jamie Stovald of Synergy up on the top right.
You saw from the onboard, they're on their formation lap. Plenty of them trying to work a little bit of temperature into the tyres. You were talking about the potential challenge of cold tyres on these GT4 cars. And, I was thinking immediately with a compulsory 4-tyre change, doesn't the McLaren have single centre lug nuts and all the rest of them are on 5?
I am not a GT4 expert whatsoever, Hainsey, so potentially it probably does sound correct, so I'll trust you on your opinion. So we'll see if that does affect anything in the pit stop. Maybe it could be, that's why we're seeing a lot of McLarens, or it's just that much faster, not too sure. But seeing on the formation a lot of marbles building up on the outside of the racing line, which is a new thing to iRacing in the last build or two. The marbles are quite a bad thing. They've been toned down a little bit in the recent build a couple weeks ago, but quite a few marbles are already on the track. So after 50 minutes of racing or 28 laps, whatever comes first, surely it's going to be a bit of build up. So you might see guys pushing some guys out into the marbles, and you'll be losing a lot of time and speed. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
So this is this incredibly long and entirely flat out backstretch on the outer layout. Normally you might go up to the left there, but not on this configuration. These are all of the possible cars. So I see Mercedes-AMG, I see McLaren, I see Aston Martin, I see Porsche 718 Cayman, and towards the back, I think that's the older spec BMW back there. So I think it's an F82, not a G82, as evidenced by the fact that it doesn't look like it could swallow you whole like quicksand. You got both.
I was going to say, that looks like a newer one, Ainsley. So there is two BMWs in the field, one of each, old and new specs. So at the moment, at least for Aragon, BMW doesn't seem to be the most popular car, but pace car is starting to streak away at 80 kilometers an hour. It'll be Adrian Duke, who was in qualifying, put 6/10 on the rest of the field, so he'll be looking to get away as quickly as he can at the start of this one.
All take note, that's where pit entry is, on the left there after the final corner. No earlier pit entry or anything like that. Too wide, rolling start. McLaren's on the front row, looking for a green flag to start this race and to start Ozicar, Tin Top Cup, and already there's drama getting to speed in the back of the pack, heading towards the tail. Michael Cullen has some dramas there, and he was definitely entangled with another driver as we got racing. I think there's been a tangle in turn one as well. Your pole sitter has dropped back to third. Brody Shepherd leads this race with Sam Chapman going into second, but absolute chaos and carnage towards the back. Trevor Hearn might have been involved at both ends of it.
Yeah, it looks like Trevor Hearn got in together with one of the cars on the start line, and then it looks like Brent Wassel went way too deep down the inside of turn number one and caused an accident as well. So, and there's another car off. It looks like Ira Felberg potentially in the Ozicar Racing. No, sorry, it's Warren Henry's teammate in the Ozicar Racing entry. So, a lot going on in lap number one, David.
Did not like the look of those tyre marks on the racing surface as well. Looks like he got hooked. So an incredibly dramatic race start. Brody Shepherd from the outside goes to the lead of this race. Sam Chapman in second there. Doing better with the track limits by the looks of things. Apparently Brody Shepherd might have a slowdown here. And Sam Chapman going to go through to the lead of the race. Adrian Duke's going to get some positions back potentially. And this is where you see which GT4's got the longest legs. The McLaren typically is one of the GT4s with some pretty long legs. This outer configuration of MotorLand Aragón, we might have a challenge for the race lead here as Sam Chapman swoops around the outside into the race lead after lap 1.
And also Timothy Harris as well, who does have damage on the left front. He's also a guy that had a slowdown and still serving it. Trevor Hearn also has a slowdown. So I assume all those guys got it on the exit of turn number 11, 12, going into the back straight as there is a battle for the race lead. Sam Chapman for Vermilion Motorsports gets the move done on Adrian Duke. They were side by side into turn 1. Duke tried the move down the inside of Sam Chapman to no avail, and Chapman will lead lap number 1.
Well, the positions lost and gained are all over the place after one lap, particularly with how many drivers we had that didn't set qualifying times. Your standouts there, Milton Borton and Ben Wheeler, are both up 10 positions, but Dan Stevens absolutely plummeting. He's gone to pit lane. Elliot D as well. Sam Chapman, all of the moves that he has made in this Porsche Cayman GT4, putting the McLarens behind him for the moment. 4-tyre change, not an especially rapid thing by the looks of things for some, and those track limits in the corner that leads out onto the back straight seem pretty ferocious in some places. Gee, you can see how so many drivers didn't set qualifying times here.
Yeah, certainly the off-tracks are very brutal around here. One thing to note as well, there is no off-track limit for this race, but we've already seen with Brody Shepherd on lap number 1, if you do go too far, you will get a slowdown penalty that will really hurt you. So we see Adrian Duke in behind the Porsche Cayman's about 6-7 kilometers an hour faster down that back straight with the draft, but unfortunately can't quite get close enough to the back of the Vermilion Motorsport Porsche. He'll still be in P2, but Brady Shepherd ran a little bit wide there on the entry of turn number 13. He'll still hang on to P3 with Stovall now into P4 and Brent Wassel into P5, but with that contact on lap number 1, I don't think he'll be finishing there post-race.
Does look like a good fight up front, despite all of the carnage that we saw initially on that opening lap. Adrian Duke now beginning to hit his rhythm again after a slowdown on the opening lap and after some contact and other drama towards turn 1, scuppered a few of our competitors. Significantly different lines from drivers first and second right now. Duke with the fastest lap of the race, but only by a little bit. Chapman still fending him off. Brody Shepherd close in contact behind, and I think you saw one of the AMGs also beginning to get up to speed and not letting the race lead get away. 6 cars within 5 seconds up front. Keeps it close together. Here's another Cayman for you. Jamie Stovall in 4th, one of the drivers that we've got an onboard camera with. Matt Wassel in 5th in the McLaren there. Gavin Barber's made plenty of spots as well, another driver, big mover up into 6th place.
Yeah, Gavin Barber doing very well so far, up to 6th after starting 15th, not setting qualifying time. Obviously missed all the carnage. Lap number 1, has done himself well. We're on board with the Porsche Cayman for Synergy Sim Racing, the 987 of Stovall in the VR as well. I did not know he ran VR, but Adrian Duke down the inside for the race lead as well. On it, Sam Chapman had the draft, and so Sam Chapman actually got a pretty poor run coming onto the back straight. That allowed a pretty easy move into 13 for Adrian Duke, but just the nature of this track with that long back straight and still pit stop and stuff to play out. Still a long way to go in this one. Adrian Duke, it's another fast lap of the race, 1:43.0. So pretty much exactly what he did in qualifying. So the tyres are just starting to heat up in these cars. Wouldn't be surprised to see some guys, probably Sam Chapman now that he's got the toe, go even faster than that 43.0.
Sectors have got them basically equal in Sector 1, basically equal in Sector 2, and Adrian Duke significantly quicker in the 3rd sector, the way that it played out in the straight line. Let's see if that long straight sees Sam Chapman potentially able to strike back. Hitting very decent speeds for GT4 cars beyond sort of 250 or up to 260 and more kilometres an hour. This is Chapman's perspective. Cayman GT4 was one of my favourites, to be honest, of this field. I'll always remember leading the Nürburgring 24-hour before my teammate crashed it.
That's not a good memory whatsoever, Hainsey. I remember I've done a little bit of GT4 racing a couple of years ago and started out in the BMW and then worked my way to the Aston Martin pretty much just because it's a V8 and it sounds really cool and it looks pretty tough. So that was probably my pick, but obviously the McLaren seems to be really good so far and the Porsche occupying the top 4-5 spots at the moment. So Sam Chapman right on the back of Adrian Duke once again. Then the back straight nearly gets in the rear bumper of him. He actually does give him a little bit of a touch up into turn number 13. Not quite close enough to get a move done though. Adrian Duke will lead lap number 4, but Chapman might have a look down the inside if he can get a little bit closer into turn 1.
Interesting the options he had available to him there at the end of the back straight, and he sort of just wanted to hang in behind, but there was a difference in speed and there's an odd sort of late apex around that final sequence of corners as well. So Sam Chapman, I think he'll be confident he can stay close, and maybe having experienced the battling earlier, he'll think that's the way to do it, is just hang in, hang tough. Putting just enough time behind to Brodie Shepherd in third that I think the top two have broken the toe to everyone else. And Harris pitting, and we have live timing available from the YouTube chat, so if you click that link you can keep across that as well. So there is 3 drivers that have pitted at the moment. Daniel Stevens and Elliot D both had pit stop times between 36 to 38 seconds, so I think it's looking like a pit stop time just underneath 40 seconds is the go for all of these cars based on what we've seen at the moment.
Yeah, it's a bit of a longer pit stop. I believe you can't do fuel and tyres at the same time in these cars, so hence the longer pit stops. So it'll be interesting to see how the drivers play. Obviously, a few of the guys already were pitting with damage. We see Tim Harris in the pits, 36-second pit stop, so that seems to be probably the norm, about 36 odd seconds, depending obviously how much fuel you got to take as well. So there's still a lot of battling going on in the background, down the back straight, trying to pick up who that is. Trevor Hearn down the inside in the McLaren, I believe, battling with Milton Borton, Dan Bardish, and just in front Ben Wheeler, and down the inside goes Trevor Hearn. Down the inside, just going to get it pulled up. Wheeler won't go around the outside as Adrian Duke sets another fast lap into the 42s now, 42.9, but it's still side by side on the next to the last corner with Hearn and Wheeler.
Absolute gaggle of McLaren 570S here in towards turn 1, but it looks like it was Trevor Hearn that was making the gains. Ben Wheeler was up a few more, now dropping back 1 or 2. He must have been very fortunate where he placed himself through the lap 1 kerfuffles. Now he's in the middle of this, where hopefully there's less contact being made. There are 2 dashboards to the McLaren 570S. The road car one and then the race car one plonked directly in front of it. 3 places you can read your speed, but you can only see 2 of them from the cockpit view. This is the roll hoop view, where you just gotta, I don't know, count the bugs flying past.
Benjamin Wheeler's actually been in a little bit of action on the end of lap 4. He was in a little instant. We'll try and pick up a replay soon if we can of that incident. Had a pretty big moment coming off turn 14 with another driver. So he's been in the war so far. Ben Wheeler still up 9 spots in this race, but he's lost a little bit of ground there on the end of lap 4 with a little incident, but seeing he got a few moves done on this lap and the last lap, so certainly on his way up is just up ahead Trevor Hearn, now looking for another move past Ben Wheeler down the inside at 13 the last lap, and looks like he's going to get Michael Cullen now around the outside with the draft, and he's going to get the move done quite easily into turn number 13 is Trevor Hearn. He'll go to position number 9 now. Adrian Duke still setting fastest lap of the race, 42.6 that last one by, and Sam Chapman still in the 42s as well with that draft. Half a second separating those guys, and Brodie Shepherd, is 1.8 seconds off the race lead.
Well, I feel dizzy. I'll make it stop. I want to get off this roller coaster ride. That was an odd little Ferris wheel. I've never experienced anything like that before. I don't know what was going on there at MotorLand Aragón, we're back with our regular pictures, including this battle back and forth where we know there was a lap one, I think even coming to the green flag issue for Trevor Hearn, but he seems like he's picking them off one at a time, and he's very confident with the McLaren 570S. He's passed a lot of other McLarens, so he would be one of the quickest drivers in this car, and he's showing us that right now. Maybe we'll come to the next round and he'll be one of the drivers who'll look to stick with the McLaren.
Yeah, Felberg just running a little bit wide there, and turn number 9 is very difficult corner to get right. He was out in the marbles too. There is no grip whatsoever, so pretty easy pass there for Trevor Hearn down the inside. There'll be another spot for him. He's only gone +2 from his original starting spot, but he was involved in the start line incident. So he was all the way down the back. He's back up to 8th now, so very nice recovery there for Trevor Hearn in the number 81.
Like most of the field, still got a pit stop ahead of him, so he can be a little tactical about when he takes that as well to try to give himself more advantage. So this is the final sweeping corner. Some they get breathed out a little bit wide, not that wide though, and then cut back to a super sharp late apex. A lot of drivers taking that as a double apex corner around there. Would have been Cullen who ended up a little wide, I reckon. Back there in that final sequence of corners.
Yeah, it was Michael Cullen. Unfortunately, just went very wide, missed his braking marker completely. It was like he was doing the long track here today. So, very unfortunate mistake for Cullen. Just misjudged it completely and lost a couple spots out of it. So he's going to work a little bit harder as Trevor Hearn, still ahead. Ira Felberg now, and Ben Wheeler battling for position number 9. Down the inside will be Ben Wheeler. Just a gaggle of McLarens here. It's the McLaren Cup here from 8th to position number 11.
Everyone wants to be Lando Norris, so looking backwards from Wheeler and all of that fighting going on behind. And the McLaren of Adrian Duke seems to have broken just a little bit at the lead. Right as I say that, comes down a couple another tenths, and Chapman might be back in the tow. Chapman's closed that up like a second since I started speaking about the race lead. So Duke lost a lot of time with the slipstream and also maybe with the line that he took through the final sequence of corners. We're about to see. Okay, so what was that all about between Duke and Chapman? Different strengths for the different models of car in the race lead.
Yeah, it's only 2 different cars battling for the race lead, which is always cool. So no talk of parity here tonight. So we'll go to the Ozicar.net replay. This is Adrian Duke coming to turn 13, last corner, rear wing angle, and Chapman just a little bit wide. Might have lost a little bit of time. And so ran a little bit wide there. Chapman probably lost a little bit of ground. 4/10 slower that last time by, but still not much in it. Just 1.4 seconds now, actually. So looks a lot closer on screen, but timing says 1.4 seconds, so we're going to trust that.
So looking back at how this race all began. So on lap 1, this is Warren Henry. He's done that all by himself there. We saw the marks, cold tyres, maybe a little bit of the curb as well. He dropped back and out of it. So this is the very, very, very race start. And they're just 4 wide, really. That's just what it is. And Tim Harris gets launched up there.
Actually, Trevor Hearn was involved in an incident as well right off the direct start. So if we can even go back a little further, Dan, of when they actually went green, there was an incident with Trevor Hearn and also Michael Cullen as Tim Harris had a massive ride into turn 1. But it all started on the start-finish line with Trevor Hearn playing a little bit ambitious going down the right-hand side, Cullen coming to the right. Just probably a bit of an unfortunate incident, bit too keen for Trevor Hearn, and Michael Cullen probably a little bit much of the same, and both of them did it. It was just going to be contact. So we'll have to see if anything comes of the post-race with our race controllers. Actually, Trevor Hearn has actually come to the pit lane for his pit stop.
and then he was backwards, nose to nose, engaging reverse gear to get out of that. He had a bit of a staring contest with Dan Bartusz. Now, it's Bartusz who, okay, no, there's someone down the inside of him that then sort of spears 3 or 4 off.
Yeah, it was Brent Wassel, I believe, was the car down the very inside of turn number 1, which sort of calls the 4 wide. It's a very tight corner, 90 degrees, so it's not ideal to try and go 4 wide, especially on lap 1 with cold tyres. So very interesting. So this, I believe, was Benjamin Wheeler on the outside with Tim Harris, and sort of just running out of racing room between both of them. That's Tim Harris had damage on lap 1, and then he got damage again on lap 4. So rear bumper missing there, and he has come in and served his pit stop as well, and currently down in 19th. So probably not a night to remember for Timmy Harris. Actually, come straight into the pit, so it worked out pretty well there for him.
Bit of Zagato fastback treatment on that one, potentially. So this is Brent Wassel again, I think. Okay, so from 9th, Dan Bartusz ahead of Milton Borton. Benjamin Wheeler, Wassel, 3 McLarens, one of the older spec BMWs.
There's a lot going on in this race. This is a battle for P7 through to P10. Ira Feldberg 2 seconds behind this group, so a couple of battles in this group that will bring Feldberg right back into it. These guys are 30 seconds off the race lead already, so pretty crazy. As Brent Wassel ran a little bit wide there by Dan Bartusz. 2 of them coming together, so very hard racing. Then back down the inside comes the BMW of Borton as well, so these guys are playing for keeps here in the back half of the top 10.
Wonder what the strengths of the BMW might be relative to the McLarens. Much more weight on the nose, you'd think. Used to be a bit of a pushy car, and then some adjustments, it got a little bit more rotation. Now we're going to try to stretch the legs of all of the cars. How's it pull in a straight line? Remembering that sort of 260-ish kilometers an hour is what we've been looking at some of the others. While we get onto the back straight, we're doing 240, and then, believe it or not, 6th gear is usable in this gearbox. Forget about 7th gear, which this car has got. And sort of the inside's covered off, so around the outside we'll go if we're Milton Borton. But another stab at the brake pedal, not a whole lot of rotation. Cutting back maybe a little too early to the late apex. Certainly he had a run down the straight. Everyone is getting a toe back there.
Yeah, this whole pack, unfortunately Ben Wheeler, the leader of this little group, does not have a toe at all, so he's got to have a lot of speed to try and break away from this group. But the next car in front of him is Tony Baker, who's 10 seconds up the road, so he's going to have a lot of speed to try and catch the next car in front. So I'm probably afraid for Ben Wheeler. He's probably will be racing this group for probably most of the race. So this is a battle on screen as well. Craig Tilson in the middle finger, I believe that's the middle finger, Mercedes AMG, and then Nathan Verney as well in the Porsche Cayman. So another 2 manufacturers battling out this for position number 12 so far. Tilson up 4 positions in the race. Nathan Verney has stayed put in 13th place.
So getting towards the halfway point of this race, still with just 4 of 20 drivers who've pitted. It's a long stop for the reasons that we've pointed out, so it seems like everyone who's made their stops have come out predominantly clear of traffic. So it's not a super quick run through the lane, you've got to worry about being put back into traffic. There's plenty of space around here. Cayman seems to be one of the cars reaching a lot of straight line speed, apparently, so are we in close enough to get just a little bit of a toe down here? And then pointing towards an early apex, braking, trailing it a little bit, Again, I think coming back a little bit too early to that last apex, but I'm not the expert. Certainly, you get these really long corners where you're sort of waiting and waiting on an apex, and it becomes difficult to judge them exactly. I think of turn 2 at Barber Motorsports Park, or some of those corners again where you're just sort of waiting through a really long corner.
Yeah, those type of corners as well just provide a bit more of a challenge for the drivers as well. Another one comes to mind is where we race the next round at Jerez, has a lot of those type of corners as well, and Jerez is actually probably one of my, if not my favourite track on the sim. For whatever reason, people don't like that I like it, but I seem to go well around there and just like the layout. So Aragón, a bit of a similar vibe here with those type of corners, but I think it provides really good racing. We've seen a lot of action so far, some good, some bad, but there's still always something happening in this race so far. We're on lap number 13, so we're nearly halfway throughout this race, so still a lot to play out. The leader of the pit at the moment is Trevor Hearn, 1 minute 24 off the race lead, and now going back to Adrian Duke out in front. Actually put a little bit of a gap on Sam Chapman at the moment, 1.5 seconds to gap. Lap times that last time by, very much the same, 6 thousandths of a second separate those guys. And unfortunately, Brody Shepherd hasn't been able to quite stay with his Vermilion teammate. He's about 6.5 seconds behind Sam Chapman. So at the moment, it's looking like quite a 2-horse race for the race winner here tonight.
Sure is at the moment, and now you're seeing the gaps relatively between second and third, and particularly that lap 11, it seems like they all put a bit of time into Brody Shepherd. Into traffic for the race leader, whose gap is just extending slightly. 5 cars have stopped now because Warren Henry went for his pit stop. This is the long left-handed wind-up to get onto the back straight.
Seems like a bit of a never-ending corner when you come out of turn 10, that very sharp downhill run, and then you go through 11, 12, you just flat out the whole way through. It seems like it never ends until you finally get on the straight where you can stretch the legs of these cars. And Adrian Duke, without the draft, 267 kilometres an hour without the draft, so quite impressive speed out the McLaren out in front. We're seeing probably low 270s with the draft, so really good speed. Adrian Duke, actually the race leader, going to the pit lane. Sam Chapman following him in, so P1 and P2 now in the pit lane. Will anyone else potentially respond? Brody Shepherd will come in as well. So the top 3 now in the pit lane. Just watching Jamie Stovall see what he does, and he's going in as well. So the top 4 now in the pit lane.
Might be about time for all of them. It's time for a side drafting battle down the back straight. Whoa, and a super deep 2-for-1 dive on the brakes. And if we're all heading for pit lane, the inside line is the one you want to hold coming off the final corner here. Doesn't look like these guys are going to pit. So they'll be running longer than the race leaders. Adrian Duke, Brody Shepherd, Sam Chapman and Jamie Stovall all in the lane right now. Gavin Barber goes through into the lead of the race, if it's only for the moment. Tony Baker, Brent Wassel, and then of course Ben Wheeler. This is just finding enough space ahead of Dan Bartosh.
Just watching the guys in pit lane now seems like an eternity. A slow getaway for Adrian Duke, and now Sam Chapman is right on the rear bumper of Adrian Duke coming out of pit lane. They're nose to tail coming out of the pit lane. So awesome to see a bit of a slow getaway from Duke. His pit stop time wasn't that much different, but just a slow getaway out of the pit box. And Sam Chapman now right on the rear bumper. Brody Shepherd and Stovall come out as well. So they've got quite a big gap to the next car on the track, which is Trevor Hearn. So
and then wide and marbles for what was the race leader, Sam Chapman, more stable on this outlap under his baby deer legs, keeping them underneath him. He goes through into what will become the lead of the race. We expect it was just a tiny little snap on the cold tyres from the McLaren. Then that fed him wide. Then he was cold tyres on the marbles. That's a slippery thing on a slippery thing, and Sam Chapman's gotten ahead.
Yeah, a little mistake there for Adrian Duke, like you said, on the cold tyres and in the marbles as well. So it's a double-edged sword there for Adrian Duke. So he'll be ruining that mistake, and Fortunately for him, he's still got a long way to go in this race. We're only just clicked over halfway, so he's got plenty of time. No draft assistance for Sam Chapman, so it wouldn't surprise me if Adrian Duke is getting close enough to make the move down the inside already to try and get the race lead back.
You thought there was a car width to the inside, and I reckon there just was one for Adrian Duke.
Oh!
Do you think behind the two of them make contact and both of them are going to go into the wall? I think Sam Chapman's gotten away with it more than Adrian Duke, who's had a big impact with the arm code. So it was as they went from the very left-hand side of the racetrack back across to the racing line for the final sequence of corners, the two of them have entangled. Sam Chapman's gotten through it better than Adrian Duke has. You've got other cars on the pit lane now. Tony Baker, Dan Bartush, Gavin Barber and Craig Tilson. So Sam Chapman goes past those. But there's some meatball flags out there at the moment for some cars, definitely for Adrian Duke.
Yeah, Adrian Duke, the left rear is completely broken, is probably the simplest term to put it. So, yeah, I don't know what to make of that incident. I'm not in race control, so I'll keep my opinions to myself. But very aggressive racing for the race lead. Especially when they've got such a massive gap to P3. We'll got that Aussie. So a bit of side drafting. It looks like, does Chapman just lose the whereabouts of where Adrian Duke is, or is, I don't know, but it looks like he veered left or turned left straight into Duke, and fortunately Duke's in the fence, so we'll stay on board with Chapman here. Yeah, it's pretty hard to tell.
You got to see Chapman's wheel here to know if he gets hit and gets loose, or if he does a little bit here. So he's mostly to the left, but not all the way to the left. There was a car width there, I reckon, to go. You can do more to not hit the guy there, can't you? I didn't see Adrian Duke do too much wrong here, and then
so he just, the rear end sort of let go, and he sort of just let it go, and fortunately into the side of Adrian Duke. So the race control team post-race will probably be having a deep dive look at that. So we'll probably say for now, whatever results are, it's probably going to be provisional at the moment, ANZ.
Chapman had plenty of wheel angle to use when it was to avoid the wall compared to when it was to avoid the other car. But it's tough to say. Obviously, we talked about the immense speeds that these cars are doing at the end of that straight there, 260, 270 k's an hour. It's velocity you don't often see from GT4 cars, and they do get a little bit floaty, a little bit weird at speed compared to GT3 cars, single-seaters, other things like that. So you've got a black flag out there for Dan Bartush. Maybe that's a slowdown that he hasn't served, or definitely with pit in, pit out at the moment and pit lane speeds, there's a potential to pick up penalties. Or the pit exit blend, how about that?
Yeah, I'm just picking up now and cross onto the green part of the pit exit. So so yeah, he cut the line, unfortunately, on the pit exit, and that's going to be a black flag, so that's going to send him right back down the field, unfortunately for Dan Bartush and the McLaren. So he's going to come out right behind where Adrian Duke, LED and Warren Henry are, who have all had their own issues tonight. So unfortunately, it's going to be a long rest of the race. The last 11 and a half laps of this race for Dan Bartush is now still Ben Wheeler still out in front. Brent Wassel now from P2 comes to the lane. Milton Borton is staying out. So only two cars left to pit in this race. Sam Chapman is fourth, but he'll get another spot here once he passes Brent Wassel. So yeah, just Ben Wheeler and Milton Borton looks like the last remaining cars to take service in this race.
And Adrian Duke's the first driver to go through the lane twice because he'd made his stop, and then we saw the contact and mechanical black flag. He had to get that fixed. And Ross's pit stop is ongoing. And Barber crosses start-finish line. Tony Baker behind. Because of all of that lap one, this and that, we didn't see a whole lot of these Aston Martins to this point, because it sent both drivers from Pulse Tuning, Echuca Toyota, sort of right up towards the back. Going for the ride was Tony Baker's teammate Tim Harris, and so that put him well to the end of the train. But now everyone else is stopping. Tim Harris is into 10th, Tony Baker's into 7th. So both of them had sort of early stops. We didn't see a whole lot of them, and now they're right back in the picture with 10 to go. Something, Baker's got to prove himself and rise to the occasion. So he is in pursuit of the identically engined but differently manufactured Mercedes-AMG GT4.
Yeah, right on the back of Gavin Barber. So this is for P6 on the road, but obviously 2 more cars still to pit. So it could be a potential just out in the top 5 as Milton Borton is now in the pit lane. So just 1 car remaining left to service, which is Ben Wheeler. So nice little battle happening here. Baker down the inside in the Aston of the Mercedes-AMG of Gavin Barber. Going to get it pulled up. He just runs a little bit wide, exposes himself a little bit to Gavin Barber back on the inside. He's got the move done, but I don't think this is quite over just yet. See if Gavin Barber pokes the nose down the inside turn 1. He does not. He might wait until the exact same spot this time by, get the draft, and see if he can get the move done right back on Tony Baker.
And as that was happening on the front straight, they passed a car or 2 and got up some other positions. So now 5th and 6th with Ben Wheeler still to pit. Sam Chatton back up in 2nd. Project Shepherd through into 3rd. Stovall 4th. Curbs are a little odd in a couple places here, and I think we just saw Gavin Barber get some of them and lose a tiny bit of traction. He is racing down there. Plenty of seat movement. He might have... Who makes some of those
Motion rig.
seat... Yeah, those... seat rigs.
Because I was going to say, he's either got a lot of seat movement, he's got a loose seat, or he's got a motion rig. So if it looks like a motion rig, you've seen him leaning forward into that braking zone. So we might stay on board with him when he comes to the heavy braking zone into turn number 13 here. See, he's lost a little bit of ground to Tony Baker in front, so I don't think even with the draft he'll get quite close enough. Try and put a move down the inside at 13, but we'll stay on board. Gavin Barber currently P6. Benjamin Wheeler now, last car to take services, now in the pit lane. So this will be effectively for P4 in the race with Gavin Barber and Tony Baker, Aston and Mercedes, 2 British brands battling for position number 4 on the road. Sorry, British and German. My mistake. Sorry, Ainsley.
Yeah, I'm something of an Aston Martin GT4 expert, so the Mercedes is certainly German, but it's the same Mercedes-Benz 4-litre V8 turbo in both cars. Aston Martin put out an incredible amount of press releases and PR and marketing material for the Aston Martin GT4 before it was actually ready, and then never updated any of those websites. So there's an incredible amount of information kicking around saying that it's an 8-speed automatic transmission in the Aston Martin GT4. They got to actually homologating the car and didn't put that gearbox in and updated none of their PR material.
Well, that's bad marketing, I think, Hainsey, unfortunately, but still a very cool looking car and going well so far with Tony Baker currently P4. This battle now on screen for now position number 6 between Trevor Hearn and Dan Stevens. Trevor Hearn, he's up 3 spots in this race from 10th. Seeing him in the wars at the start of the race, so a really nice recovery for him. And Dan Stevens, he started 4th, but he was involved in that turn 1 incident earlier on, and looks like he's going to try and make a move around the outside coming down the long back straight. And not far behind them in 8th is Timothy Harris. Considering he's been in the wall twice and damaged twice in this race, fact that it's a very good recovery for him, as side by side still the McLaren and the Mercedes side by side. I don't think Stevens going to quite get in front. He's very deep under brakes as Dan Stevens. Can he get the car pulled up is the question. Runs very wide, keeps momentum. Trevor Hearn didn't quite keep it tight enough. 3, 13 and 14, and that'll be the spot for Dan Stevens, now P6.
lot of Windows taskbar action going on across 3 monitors for Dan Stevens. And he thinks he's got pinned to it as well. He's got his eyes sort of pinned forward with an occasional glance to the mirror. Got ahead with a very audacious move around the outside of the final sequence of corners. Up into 6th place he goes. Pit stops for everyone. And Sam Chapman leads Brodie Shepherd 2nd and Jamie Stovall 3rd. The rest of the spots to still try to sort themselves out, like the battling we saw between Tony Baker, Gavin Barber, now between Dan Stevens and Trevor Hearn. I think Hearn might just have this, but he's going to maybe need a lap or two to make it complete.
The last time by Timothy Harris was very quick as well compared to these two cars, so still with 7 laps remaining, or 7.5 laps remaining, I think Timothy Harris isn't out of the question here to potentially battle for this P number 6 in this race, so I'll have to keep an eye on this battle and see if Tim Harris can get himself involved. But Trevor Hearn now, he's going to go to the outside of Dan Stevens down the straight. Let's see who's got the most legs. Is it the McLaren or is it the Mercedes? And the McLaren streaks away down the outside, a couple more kilometres an hour down the inside, but he's going to run a little bit wide. He's going to leave himself exposed to Stevens side by side for the last corner. There's a little bit of a touch as well through 14. There's still going to be side by side through 14 down the front straight. Awesome racing here, Hansy.
I think it was relatively fair, but Trevor Hearn won't be a big fan of it. He's going to try to cross over in turn 1, and like I said, it might take a lap or two for him to make this complete, even if he's got a little bit more speed than Dan Stevens to try to fend him off as they do it. Tim Harris gets closer, and with pit stops completed for everyone, 2 biggest movers in the race, Gavin Barber and Ben Wheeler. But again, 2 drivers that didn't set a qualifying time at all. Can you give them biggest mover if they just flat out didn't qualify?
Look at that last lap time as well. 44.3 for Dan Stevens, 44.1 for Hearn in that draft would have helped. But look at the lap time for Tim Harris, a 43.2. So a full second faster than these guys. The more they battle, the more they're inviting Tim Harris in the party. And Tim Harris is not far away at all. He's going to get a little bit of draft assistance down this front straight. So one more little battle into turn number 13 here between Stevens and Hearn. And Tim Harris will be all over the back of these guys in the Aston Martin. So 3 brands now battling for P number 6.
Well, he can pick and choose his lane if he wants to slipstream. The McLaren's just gotten ahead. Trevor Hearn will then try to defend the inside from Dan Stevens, who's proven himself very confident to try to send it round the outside or to try to take a different line. So the 2 of them will end up side by side in the braking zone. Tim Harris gets to take his regular line, close a couple of car lengths on them. I think Trevor Hearn's just got that sorted now over Dan Stevens. Across the start-finish line for 5 or 6 to go. Also keeping an eye on the 50-minute clock. Lap times are about a minute 42, so I think we're for the race leader last lap of 142.995. Sam Chapman, I think, has seen us rattle through the laps approximately quick enough. Tim Harris will have a good idea of where he thinks his strengths are, and he thinks it's under braking. Going wide to McLaren up there, and Trevor Hearn as well. So we close in on him as Tim Harris has a little bit of an attack at Dan Stevens.
It's all got on here for position number 6. Tim Harris was really nowhere before these guys started battling. He's reeled him in with just solid pace and better help with Stevens and Trevor Hearn battling so much. He's now all over the back of Dan Stevens, so wouldn't be surprised if Tim Harris tries to make a move here down the end of the back straight. Looks like we've seen that last one by McLaren. I think she's got a little bit more extra legs than the Mercedes down the straight. It's not by much, but it's just enough to stay out in front. Even with Stevens right on his rear bumper, he couldn't quite do anything trying to get past that McLaren. We'll see what the Aston Martin can do this time. Looks fairly even with that draft. The Aston Martin's just creeping alongside him, and the McLaren is still maintaining that gap. So McLaren very good down this long straightaway, and Tim Harris gonna nose down the inside, not quite close enough. See if he runs a little bit wide See if he can hold the position. They're still going to be side by side on the exit. Stevens just going to clear him on the exit. Very good racing here, Hainsey.
Hearn might be struggling with his front right tyre a little bit there. They both closed on him super duper. Dan Stevens back on the attack. Tim Harris trying to take a different line, gets balked at the apex of T1, clambering all over each other once again. And Hearn, who caught up to Stevens and then so dominantly passed him, looks a little weak once again, and he's lost the advantage that he had, the straight line for the McLaren. Now we're into the twisty first and second sectors. Stevens is crawling all over him, and Tim Harris will look to do likewise as well.
Yeah, Tim Harris is just waiting for opportunities. Dan Stevens down the inside has a look at turn number 7. Won't quite get the move done. He's going to be awkwardly placed now for turn number 8 and 9 as Harris has another look as well. So just having a quick peek down the inside. Stevens couldn't quite get the move done through 7. Now he's going to try and line up again and try and pass that fast McLaren down the straight. If he can get a nice enough run and get close enough to put himself in good position, but he's very wide there. Dan Stevens doesn't get a slowdown somehow, but still gets in front of the McLaren, and here comes Tim Harris.
Track limits and then some in a 3-way, 3-mark fight on the outer layout of MotorLand Aragón. How about 3 wide on the back straight? We saw 2 wide end in tiers. What about 3? Tim Harris, gutsy to go to the inside line. We've seen how deep on the brakes Dan Stevens can be, but not like that. He gets boxed in. Tim Harris with the inside line on the McLaren. Final little apex there. And that's super wide on the track limits again from Trevor Hearn, just staying slightly ahead of Tim Harris. Dan Stevens couldn't flex his braking might with where he ended up placed after the back straight. And getting ahead of both of them, Tim Harris goes to 6th. Not giving up. Look at the little warning lights for car alongside the radar that Dan Stevens have got. This is why Teslas don't race, because they could only do it with cameras.
Dan Stevens, for a better of a term, got mugged down the pack straight away. He got the spot on Trevor Hearn and then lost 2 going into the corner as he's going to try again down the inside of turn 7. Again, not quite close enough to force the move as Trevor Hearn using all the track limits here tonight. He's probably going to have quite a lot of off tracks after this race tonight. He's just trying to stay with Tim Harris, but we've seen Tim Harris have very good pace, and it obviously goes to show because he's pulled away just enough on Trevor Hearn at the moment to probably not be too threatened down the back straight.
Geez, how's the track limits? Any chance, fellas? There's only a few laps left in this opening round of Season 10 of Ozicar Tin Top Cup. Now that we've had that pit stops, yeah, Sam Chapman with his 8-second lead over Brody Shepherd. Jamie Stovall closing in. No, last lap, no, not closing in. So this is one of the better battles up front. Trevor Hearn, I think, has deviated from the line he was taking previously just to try to cover off Dan Stevens. He's super brave as the last breaker there.
Nice little battle pack forming as well from P16 to P19, and Warren Henry's heading up that pack. It's all going on even right at the back of the field. There's a lot of guys still squabbling for position, so it's all going on throughout the field. Tony Baker and Gav Barber as well fighting for position number 4 as the fast lap. Adrian Duke, who unfortunately had that incident with Sam Chapman, still pumping out very fast lap times, a 42.6 for the fast lap. He's trying to get past Brett Wassel here, position number 11 on his recovery drive.
Can I offer you this in the final couple of laps? I'm getting deja vu of BMW versus 3 McLarens. In this case, it's Warren Henry, Dan Bartosh, Michael Cullen, and Elliot D in the newer spec BMW. I'll memorise Porsche model codes, but I'll be damned if I'll do the same for BMW. So newer BMW. The larger sniffing variant.
There's still a lot going on in this battle pack. Warren Henry, Ozicar Racing, still holding on to Dan Bardish, Cullen, Elliot D. All these guys have been in the wars tonight. We've had a bit going on for all of them. Three McLarens and the newer spec Beamer. So still a lot happening at the back of the field. Sam Chapman, though, so in his second last lap. Tony Baker still in front of Gavin Barber just. And Tim Harris still holding on in front of Trevor Hearn and Dan Stevens. And Milton Borton and Ben Wheeler now fighting for position number 9 as well at the last corner. It looks like Milton Borton actually got the move done on Ben Wheeler as they're side by side on the front straight.
Chance of a strike back into turn 1. Around the outside. Milton Borton fends off Ben Wheeler. 2 more laps to go for everyone. Race leader a fair bit up the road from these two. A bit of a curb hop, bit of a kick the dust up. Any respect that they had for track limits in the first 10 laps appears to have gone. Oh, the marbles. You've got to respect the marbles, though. Ben Wheeler ends up all out in them and all adrift at sea without a paddle.
Yeah, just a little mistake there from Ben Wheeler. Can't go too wide, especially with the marbles there. He's got no grip whatsoever, and now he's going to let Adrian Duke buy 4 position. They got the same paint on, so I'd probably be safe to say they are teammates. Not quite sure on that, Ainsy. I'm sure you could confirm for me, but
yeah,
Adrian
normally
Duke now into 10th.
Got a different, dare I say, better livery. I think they've just taken a generic base on this one. Race leader begins the final lap, so it's all about to be permanent. Battles all through the field in various places, 4th and 5th, 6th and 7th, 10th, 11th and 12th. Sam Chapman had his own battle for the lead. That one came to an end towards the end of the back straight. Now he's 8 and some seconds clear. And one of only a few Porsche Caymans in the fields. It's proven a straight line weapon. Compact little vehicle that it is.
2 Porsches on the podium.
Towards its top of its 6th gear as well, which is pleasing. Shepherd's ended up in 2nd here with Stovall 3rd.
A nice little battle going on for 4th between Baker and Barber. Aston and the Mercedes going at it once again. Tony Baker hanging on. Gavin Barber, he's up plus 10, so there's a lot going on. Timothy Harris again in the wars. That's the 3rd time in this race. Unfortunately, it's Trevor Hearn. Ill-fated move down the inside. Wasn't clear. Unfortunately, Tim Harris's night's gone from bad to worse.
For Sam Chapman, he'll cross the checkered flag, take the win. Brodie Shepherd in the background and Jamie Stovall to complete the podium. As for the rest of the order, throw your dice up in the air, I reckon, because what to play for in the various positions. Did enjoy the look of Milton Borton in the old BMW leading 3 ferocious McLarens around. Go, and Tony Baker's just going to stay ahead of Barber. Barber were sort of 1 IGA and BWS short of the local shops.
Yeah, Trevor Hearn will hang on to 6. Obviously, questionable move there on Harris. Might be investigated post race. It's all going on here for position number 9. Adrian Duke has got the move done on Milton Borton for 9th. Nice recovery drive despite what happened to him. Milton Borton will just hang on for 10th. Looks like Benjamin Wheeler 11th.
Not black flag for the track limits. That's going to be absolutely devastating for Benjamin Wheeler. No way he's going to hold on to 11th once the results become final and everyone else crosses the checkered flag. So Tilson and Nathan Verney, a couple of the others that we're waiting on, but you can see on the timing column left of screen the black flag for Benjamin Wheeler from how wide he ran out of the final corner. Maybe he had a slowdown that he couldn't clear in time. It becomes super, super costly. Let's see if we can pinpoint exactly when Ben Wheeler went too far. So he tries to cross back underneath Milton Borton. That's not happening. Then he tries to launch at him again. It just washes wide. Apparently it's beyond the green paint, I reckon. Slams the brakes on, but it's way too late.
And unfortunately for Wheeler, he's gone from what was 11th place now. He's dead last 20th. So, and is that right, Brody Shepherd, black flag? Is that correct, or is the information? Sorry, Dan Yeaman, producers, confusing me a little bit. I thought Brady Shepherd somehow got a black flag, but he's comfortably in second. Unfortunately, Ben Wheeler all the way down to 20th. So, a few guys had a very tough night and a lot to come out of this first round, Hainsey.
The way that it's calculated the post-race penalty, it's actually only put him 1 second behind Tim Harris, I think. Now, this is a bit behind John Snell, as this is Tim Harris getting a little dispatched by Trevor Hearn. We've seen that the end of the long run, the nose of the McLaren seems to pick up a little bit of understeer. And so Hearn, sectors 1 and 2, I don't think that was the McLaren strong sector. And, gee, wow. Yeah, no ability to brake or steer that car anywhere near the amount of ambition that he had on the final lap. So with everyone having crossed the checkered flag, iRacing have locked in the results, calculated it all. Sam Chapman up front in first position, Brody Shepherd second, Jamie Stovall third, Tony Baker just holding off Gavin Barber, Trevor Hearn ahead of Dan Stevens, Tim Harris from Adrian Duke and Milton Borton, Brent Wassell, Craig Tilson, Nathan Verney, Ira Felberg, Warren Henry, Michael Cullen, Dan Bartush, Elliot D, John Snell, and Benjamin Wheeler. I reckon it's given him almost a whole minute for that. So that's all advice I give to absolutely everybody, is never get a black flag on the final lap when you can't serve it.
No, certainly not. Probably about 50 seconds, roughly, I think. So, yeah, unfortunately, Ben Wheeler. Not a very good end of the race. He had a bit of a rough race up until that point, and unfortunately, right at the death, unfortunately, we'll finish P20, and unfortunately, P20 is last tonight, so a lot of work to do for the rest of the season for Benjamin Wheeler.
Drivers hanging around to chat at the moment. And in the David Haynes style, we're going to go to third place first. Jamie Stovall is going to join Brady Baldwin.
Jamie, congratulations on P3 tonight, mate. Bit of a lonely race out there for you tonight. Tell us about how your night went.
Yeah, you're right. It was very lonely. Yeah, I just survived the start, and then everyone sort of pulled 10 to 20 seconds, and I was just going for a little Sunday drive. So, yeah, it wasn't the most exciting one for me, unfortunately, today.
It might have been the year-old sub that I gave you before the race was no good, obviously. We'll blame that instead of your driving, but tell us about the GT4s. I know we were talking pre-race and said you're not really good in these type of cars. Very difficult track, not the easiest one to get around. So how'd you find the car as well as the track here tonight?
Yeah, I didn't think I was going to be... I knew I wasn't going to be good in these, but I didn't think I was going to be this bad. To be 20 seconds off the lead is pretty rough. But yeah, bought the track like 5 minutes before. So, yeah, it's quite a fun one. I don't know if there's something that I need to change with my wheel settings with the 3D curbs, but whenever I hit them, it like drags the car over. So I don't know if everyone was having that or if it's just me, but found it really hard to use all the track. So yeah, an interesting combination.
Well, next round in 2 weeks we head to Jerez, my personal favourite. Have you done many laps there before?
Yeah, I've raced that a bit in a variety of cars, but never in a GT4, so we'll give that a go.
Well, congratulations once again on P3. Anyone you'd like to shout out or thank for your result tonight?
I'd just like to thank Bobby Wong for the setup. It did me wonders today. Big thanks to everyone at Synergy, and you guys for putting on the broadcast.
Congratulations once again, Jamie, and hopefully we'll talk to you in 2 weeks.
Yeah, we'll see you then. Cheers, Brady.
There's Jamie Stovold in position number 3 tonight, and I believe David has caught up with second place finisher Brody Shepherd.
No, we just... Wait, what?
Hello?
We're going to... Yeah, Brody Shepherd's with us right now. Second place and picking up some spots towards the end a little bit there. Some chaos from beginning to end at Aragón. What do you put that down to?
Yeah, that was a interesting race. It was the track's quite difficult and quite fast and quite flowing, so the cars are bound to be quite close together with the slipstream nature of it all. And I think that was quite evident at the start of the race when everyone just was all together, and then as you slowly started to break away, it became a bit more stable once you weren't side by side by the end of the kilometre-long straight at the back.
And then sort of one of the big questions I think that we're going to be asking ourselves all season long is car choice, car choice, car choice. A lot of McLarens out there for the first round. Is it just here's a car that just keeps pulling in a straight line for this circuit configuration choice, or there are other things that feed into it?
I'm sure the people that run GT4s a bit more consistently would probably know the difference between like each car and how cars perform. To be honest, that was the first race I've ever done in GT4, and I just picked the McLaren because it looks cool and it's got the flames when you shift, so that was my reasoning behind the pick. And yeah, it was a pretty good race for it. By the looks of it, the car was quite quick, and Adrian was insanely fast all night and was up there the whole time.
Well, congratulations, second place. And you think you're going to stick with this car in 2 weeks' time, or test some things and see what works? Or is it a budgetary restraint?
I think I'll try the Porsche out a bit, because I had tried that before this, but I found it quite understeery compared to the McLaren, which is, I think, the opposite of what most people say. So I think I need to test that car out a bit more, because that was quite fun to drive, just very understeery. But the McLaren was a lot of fun tonight, and we'll be definitely interested to see how the other cars go and whether or not something else is a bit quicker in a couple of races, depending on the tracks.
Fantastic. We'll see you in 2 weeks' time, Brody.
Thanks, enjoy.
Shuffle around and get to, in all due course, Brady Baldwin, now race winner Sam Chapman.
Tim Chapman, congratulations on the win tonight. It was pretty intense race with you and Angie and Duke throughout that one. Ended up getting the win by 9 seconds, but it was pretty full on in the middle part of that race with Adrian.
Yeah, it definitely was. I've just sort of been re-watching that incident over and over again, trying to work out the sort of ins and outs of it. It's certainly an unfortunate one. Yeah, we're on each other's tail most of the race. He pulled away from me towards the end of that first stint. That Macca was just so fast in a straight line. He could overtake me without toe. So, yeah, but was able to add a good pit sequence and came out right behind him, and obviously was able to slip in front and sort of realised, well, I either stay in front here or it's probably game over for me, because I can't really catch up on the straight. So was sort of locking to the inside, and yeah, I think he must have hit a bump while he was sort of trying to overtake me there, and it sort of got into me, and in that correction, the way these cars sort of, the weight transfers, it all got out of hand. So yeah, unfortunate that it ended that way. It was a good race, and I was lucky I was able to sort of get on the brakes and throttle at the right time to slip back out on track. We wasn't, unfortunately, as lucky going into the wall there, and sort of take it from there. But yeah, I'd be interested to have a chat to the guys afterwards about that one.
David Haynes spoke to your teammate Brody Shepherd about why he chose the McLaren. in this race. Why did you choose the Porsche Cayman? Does it just suit your driving style, or did you find it the fastest car? Explain your reasonings why you chose the Porsche tonight, and will you be staying in that car? Will you be doing a bit of testing in the other cars to see if you can find a bit more speed?
Porsche is usually a really good car. Like, I'm pretty used to the Porsche. I've done it sort of in another series a fair bit, and I only signed up this afternoon for the race. I'm not sure if I'll be able to make the other races. We'll see how we go. But it was more just I wasn't used to it. I wasn't sure whether it was pick and stick as well. If I knew it was a pick and stick, I probably would have jumped in the Macca or the Beamer or something that had a bit more juice, because this track sort of exposes most of the Porsche's weaknesses, really. There's medium speed corners and a really long straight is not, and lots of curbing is not really what you want. You probably saw me bouncing around over the curbs, sort of trying to get those extra entries to each of the corners, which, you know, was a bit uncomfortable. But it was more just, you know, I knew the car. I just figured I'd jump in and see where we got to.
Well, whether you are racing the next round or not, Jerez is next on the schedule. What are your predictions for that race in 2 weeks' time?
Jerez is a good track. Once again, like I think the car choices will be a lot more even at Jerez, because you don't have those big long straights where some of the cars can stretch their legs more, but you also don't, you know, it's not an entirely tight little circuit as well where the Porsche might shine a bit more. So I think the racing will be really good there. It usually is at Jerez. It's also, you know, much, you know, more difficult to overtake there. You'll have to come up with a different strategy other than slipstreaming down the back straights. So good track. Hopefully I'll be able to make it, but we'll see how we go.
Well, congratulations once again on your result tonight. Is there anyone you would like to thank for your result?
Yep, of course. So I only saw Brody was out there with me before, so Brody for getting out there with the team. Obviously, the Minion team. And all their sponsors that go with that. So Race Lab, Burp Design, Supernova Motorsports, Hymo Setup, Minion X Coding, and thecarshop.com.au.
Congratulations once again, Sam, and hopefully we'll see you in 2 weeks' time.
Cheers, guys.
There is your race winner, Sam Chapman, David. And 2 weeks' time, we're heading to one of my favourite tracks on the iRacing service, Circuit de Jerez, on Monday, April 14, and everyone will be back on the normal time, same as Queensland. I don't know where you're located, David, but it would be nice that everyone is on the same time, except for WA, but they're a bit different over there.
Yeah, but at least WA relative to Queensland never changes. Did you know you can get married in that UFO over the racetrack here at Circuito de Jerez? I don't know if any of our drivers will be looking to do that in 2 weeks' time. Lots to unpack from this GT4 championship as the different strategies played out, and as we look towards which car might be strong at Jerez, what everyone learned from this first round, and if we might see some changes and some switch-ups from our drivers when they next go racing in 2 weeks' time. You'll see it here on SimSpeed TV. Ozicar Tin Top Cup brought to you by Locked On Lads, Prestige Trophy Badge and Engraving, and in support of the No Social Hate campaign. Make sure you're following SimSpeed channels for when we bring you Ozicar Tin Top Cup's next round in 2 weeks' time.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head to head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.